Bitcoin is all over the place today. It's currently at $55,700 on Bitstamp, on Coinbase. Bybit's a little bit lower. Binance 56,000. But if we take a look at what's happened over the past 24 hours, we're able to see, there we go, a huge drop off. And we were above 60,000, even around $61,000 right here. And then suddenly within a matter of an hour, it dropped from, 58,000 and a half, 59,000, 58,000, all the way down to 55,000, started regaining a little bit. And then bam, this flash crash all the way down to 52,200-ish. Went up a little bit, and finally we were at 55,700 after it stabilized over the past few hours. But it was very exciting to see it suddenly go from $60,000. It was recently, not too long ago, almost at $65,000. As you can see here, we're well above $64,000. And on some exchanges, we did reach $65,000 to suddenly hitting $52,000. That's a big loss, but it's a dip, most likely. This could be the end of the markets. This could be the end of the bull run, but probably it's not, because there's a lot of institutional money that just got in at $40,000, $50,000, $55,000. They're not cashing out. And there's an explanation for this. There's, like always, a few explanations. It's not just one event. It's usually one thing that triggers another, and then suddenly you have multiple events. There's panic, there's widespread chaos, there's FUD. Newbie investors have no idea what they're doing. Some people bought, let's say, at the all-time high over here. They suddenly lost 15, 20, 30% of their investment. They're like, whoa, what's going on, right? Bitcoin price drops to $52,000, liquidating almost $10 billion. It's mainly because of a Chinese power blackout. And why should that impact Bitcoin? That's because in China, there's a lot of miners. There's a lot of cryptocurrency companies that are dependent upon these miners. Bitcoin fell to settle lows of $52,000 because it was following the hash rate. China, US rumors lead the Bitcoin sell-off. Hash rate, an estimate of the computing power dedicated to the network by miners, crashed by almost half according to some estimates. This was due to a mass outage in China's Shanxi province. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Probably not. Sorry if I did. Home to a large number of miners, which began 2 days ago. In a classic depiction of the old adage, price follows hash rate. Bitcoin USD then caught up with reality. Price and hash rate has always been correlated statistically. As you can see, Bitcoin mean hash rate, and then bam, both crashed. The price and the hash rate. If the outage lasts 3 weeks, the Bitcoin will have a historically large difficulty adjustment, but I think that's unlikely. Either grid comes back online or miners will move their hardware. There's no panic among hodlers. The U.S. Treasury to charge several financial institutions for money laundering using cryptocurrencies. Surfacing right at the time of the price crash, FX Hudge quoted anonymous sources as warning over regulators taking unnamed financial institutions to court over money laundering related to cryptocurrency. Just Bitcoin doing its thing on its way to $10 million. Honestly, after you've been in the game long enough, you go numb to Bitcoin price dips. Is it the perfect time to buy Bitcoin? Raphael Schultz-Kraft, co-founder and CTO of on-chain monitoring resource Glassnode, certainly thinks so. The spent transaction output ratio, SOPR, which measures overall profit and loss, had reset for the first time since after March's all-time highs of $61,700, which later it went up to $65,000 in April. Not too bad. It looks like a coal mine accident in China might have impacted the Bitcoin hash rate. Coal mines cut power to several Chinese Bitcoin miners, and all it takes is a few large Chinese Bitcoin mining companies to go through this, and suddenly that would explain why half of the hash rate is cut. Why? Because in China, the electricity is cheaper, the equipment is cheaper, it's much cheaper to hire labor to set up this land, to pay for everything, and that's why you have a lot of people who already for the past few years have been building these huge bases, and you've had this in the past before. If you remember, China's been in the news a lot. In 2020 of summer, we had excess flooding in Sichuan. It caused 20% hash rate losses for Chinese Bitcoin miners. Let's try and see. Yeah, that's crazy flooding. and 2 videos showing a mining operation that was impacted in 2019 by mudslides. So this happens every so often, right? You have something that causes a natural disaster or a man-made disaster. That's just life, that happens. And if you have a large enough company, as you can see, look at all that equipment. Look at all that equipment that's been destroyed. And here they're trying to drain it. So that's perfect. That's great. You also had stuff like this not too long ago. A major Chinese Bitcoin mining hub is shutting down its cryptocurrency operations. Bitcoin mining consumes an estimated 128 terawatt hours per year of energy. That's great. Well, where are you going to find that? Inner Mongolia. And unfortunately, they decided to ban new cryptocurrency mining project and shut down existing cryptocurrency mining operations because of the energy consumption. I think it's very political, because once you really start exploring, then you realize, hey, well, Mongolia, it's a pretty poor place. China, it's developing. The energy consumption is much worse for the factories out there and for other companies that are producing technology, not cryptocurrency mining. It's just, I'm not saying cryptocurrency mining is great for the environment, but there's a lot worse stuff out there, like the banking system, which uses 10 times more energy. Inner Mongolia alone accounts for around 8% of all Bitcoin mining globally, more than the United States, actually, which is pretty crazy how Mongolia, nobody really thinks about that. Well, recently they wanted to shut down some companies, and these companies have a lot of Bitcoin. So what are they forced to do? They have to sell. They have to dump their Bitcoin every single week, every single month. And you've also had this stuff happen in China as well. Chinese miners do have a huge implication on Bitcoin's price. For example, 3 months ago, F2 Pool started a massive sell-off and Bitcoin suddenly fell 20% in less than 24 hours. It was because at the time, a lot of people thought there was oversupplied, and miners need to sell Bitcoin every now and then to pay for operational costs. Now, of course, a lot of people want to hold on to it to hopefully make more money, but not everybody's able to do that. And suddenly when you have too many miners trying to sell or too many Bitcoins suddenly flooding the market, the headlines can start to go from bullish to bearish very quickly. So is this bad? Most likely it's a dip. Most likely it's nothing to worry about. We've had plenty of these dips along the way. Traders predict what would likely come next. 50,000, 80,000 strikes contract notional for Bitcoin. I think these writers will be happy, and I'm still in the same opinion that the end of April, May begins the shift that makes Bitcoin a less favorable long, no breakout, just range and rotation. In the long term, though, traders are still optimistic about Bitcoin. Now some Bitcoin technical analysis. Bitcoin has broken out of an accumulation of over 1,000 days range. This usually results in long extensions. Currently, the increase over the previous all-time high is only 200%. Now, it is fascinating that we did break through $60,000 level because it took so long to finally break above it, but most likely it's going to be okay. We also had Coinbase. It went down quite a bit. And this is probably also a pretty big reason why Coinbase kind of fell down. It was a $5 billion dump by executives who wanted to cash in on their riches. But we might do a separate video about this. So $500,000 and beyond. My favorite chart for situational awareness, S2FX for rough long-term level forecast. It's the white line, as you can see, combined with accurate on-chain bull/bear recognition signal. The analyst's situational awareness stock-to-flow cross-asset model chart has tracked previous bull cycles with eye-opening precision, and hopes are high among the hodlers that this one will not be any different. Extrapolating the current bull-bear recognition signals out, Plan B's forecast using the S2FX model calls a 2021 high of $288,000. However, it could go as high as $576,000. If this seems ambitious, then bear in mind that there's no precedent in Bitcoin's history for the kind of institutional inflows that are currently being seen, let alone the lack of liquidity as investors seek to hoard their holdings. So even previous bullish patterns may not be the most reliable predictors for this cycle. Oh yeah, baby. So that's it for today's video. We're going to end off with the crypto fear and greed index. It's dropped a little bit, but we're at 79, which is still pretty good. It's extreme greed. Yesterday was 76, last week 76, last month 71. But overall, it was higher. It was in the 80s. But still, it's really, really good that we're above 60. So I wouldn't be too fearful. I'm hodling on. I could have cashed out at $65,000, but I don't want to. I might cash out a little bit above above $70,000. I've got money currently for the next month, and we're going to be good. And plus, I'll probably have to cash out for a little bit for my car when I move back to the States. So it's not, I don't have that much money. It's only a few $1,000s. If it was $100,000 that we were dealing with, maybe I'd be a little bit more cautious with where I'm going to sell, how much I'm going to purchase. But, if you've got a few $1,000s, don't worry too much about it. Unless you can't afford to leave that few $1,000s in there. If you don't have an emergency fund, well, I already have a video on that, so you should probably check that out. All right, guys. So thanks for watching today's video. Peace. Have a great rest of your day. Hopefully we're able to see Bitcoin back above $60,000 pretty soon. That'd be lovely. The whole market's been affected. So we had BNB go below 500. Ethereum, it hit over 2,500. Now it's approaching 2,100. XRP is down 20%. So it was actually the hardest hit out of all the top 5. And Dogecoin, surprisingly, is up 18%, but it's still below where it was previously of a high of 44 cents. But still, to see it in the top 6 coins is pretty crazy with $41.4 billion. So have a great rest of your day. Bye.